how something becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
I was sitting around there, Gales Creek, got bored, so I got on the bus and rode back down to Woodburn and re-met Bernice.
Okay.
And stayed the weekend there at her house. And then Monday they started back to school. So I didn't have nothing to do, so I got on the bus again and went on down to Salem, Oregon. Just wandering around, and I happened to walk past the Marine Corps recruit station. And I thought, wow, I like that uniform they had. While I was in the high school there, servicemen all come and presented themselves to us. So I like that Marine Corps uniform. So I walked in there to talk to them, and I come out of there signed up as a Marine. Pending a physical. So they put me on, right then and there, they put me on a bus to Portland, and I had to stay in a hotel that night in Portland, and then the next day take my physical to see if that would qualify, and I qualified, and that got assigned to the train that night at 9 o'clock that night that traveled to San Diego, California. So I went on, took the rest of the day and went out to my grandmother's house, and my cousin George and Buddy Ricketts was there, and they said they'd no problem, they'd get me back to the train station in time to catch the train. So at 9 o'clock that night, I got on that train and headed south to San Diego to the Marine Corps training base.
Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego?
Yeah. And then I got in. Wish I spent 2 days there in the Marine Corps and said, oh, why didn't I listen to my daddy? What am I doing here?
It was hard.
So I went ahead and went through boot camp, and then I got.
You went through what?
Hmm?
You went through what?
Boot camp.
Okay.
10 weeks of boot camp. And then I got stations in Bremerton, Washington. So, and I didn't tell anybody at Woodburn anything that had happened to me. They didn't know where I went or what happened to me. So I got stationed up there at Bremerton, Washington. After boot camp, I stopped 10 days at home and visited them. Showed off my Marine Corps blues. I decided Marines ain't that big. It's just a place you have to go.
Okay. Back on. Back on the record.
Like most Marines that do at least a 3-year service and on, and there it says, once a Marine, always Marine. I says, upon discharge, I'm no longer a Marine.
It turns out you were. So, all right, so here's a couple of photos.
This is me and my Marine Corps blues. After my graduation from boot camp, I was on a 10-day leave, and I stopped at home to show them off my uniform and stopped there for 10 days, and then I got transferred on up to Bremerton, Washington. Started serving my time up there.
Right, so you went in 1948, and you got, if you did a year, you probably got out early 1949. When you got called back, you went to Camp Pendleton at first.
Yeah, and that's it.
Okay.
These pictures I'm looking at is after when I got called back into the service for 10 weeks of advanced training prior going to Korea.
And that's Camp Pendleton?
Yeah, back to Camp Pendleton. This is when I was stationed there getting retrained to go to Korea.
All right. So you went in. You were in Bremerton for a
Right.
while, and then you
Well,
got out.
while I was in Bremerton, me and another buddy decided to ride home to our old girlfriends and see if they were still available or not. And I got a letter back from Bernice's sister, Franny, telling me that Bernice was in Portland and that she wasn't there in Woodburn anymore. But please don't contact Woodburn anymore because her dad was looking for me. So, but she sent and she told me where Bernice was at. And so I went down there and visited her. Well, first I wrote to her and asked her if it's all right if I come and visit her. But then she said, yeah, I could visit. So I went down there and then I proposed to her and told her I wanted to get married. She said, no, I don't love you anymore. I'm not marrying you. And then I went back to the base and the girls there staying with her said, are you crazy? You got a chance to give your baby a name and you're not going to do it? And I said, and she says, well, then I went down to visit her again and she said, well, I changed my mind. I will marry you. Oh, that was in 49. We got married.
Yeah.
And so then I finished my year we got married and I finished my year of service and got released. But they made me sign up for 6 years at inactive reserve for only serving 1 year of active duty. And so I got home and we started our family and built our little house. And then I come home from work. I was working swing shift at a sawmill and I came home and on about 11 o'clock at night, and there was a brown envelope sitting on top of my bookcase. And I said, oh no. And I opened it up. That was orders to report back to Camp Pendleton for advanced training so instead of going to bed, I went down to where Dad lived and started talking to him and kept him up the rest of the night talking to Dad.
Wow. So at that point, Mom was pregnant with Kevin. So you had one.
Oh.
You had a 1-year-old and
Oh.
a pregnant wife.
Kevin was
Born in September.
Was born the night I got them papers. Kevin was born that night. Kevin was born that night. Then I had 10 days to be with her before I had to leave to go to Camp Pendleton. So after 10 days, I went to Pendleton, and after I left, she went back home to stay with her dad. She lived with her dad while I was serving in the Korea.
Okay. So how many kids did you have when you got the day after you got those papers?
The day I got them papers, I had 2 children, Ron and Kevin.
And how old were they?
Ron was 1 year old and Kevin was a newborn baby, just 10 days old when I had to leave.
Wow.
So I went down there and I was putting in my 10 weeks of training, and then the paper they put out there said that if you was married and had a responsibility of 4 children, four people to take care of, you could get a release. So I put in for it, and it turned out they said, well, you can't use your brother, so you don't have enough. You got to go ahead and serve. So I went ahead and served, and we did our 10 weeks of training, and then boarded ship to go to Korea, where we landed in Japan, and we took a week there getting reorganized, ready for Korea.
Let me see them pictures. I gotta study that picture. Every time we moved, you go over this hill, there's a little village there, and then you go over to the next village, and there's a little village there.
Yeah. So what is the picture that you're looking at there, Dad?
That's after we got down to Camp Pendleton for advanced training. Was in our advanced training mode there. It was 10 weeks long before getting ready to ship out to Korea.
And is what you're wearing in that picture, is that your basic uniform, what you were wearing when you were out on patrol and doing what you were doing in Korea?
Yes, that's the basic uniform that I wore all through Korea.
And what kind of gun did you use?
An M1, that's
M1
an M1 rifle,
And
30 caliber.
Okay. How did it work? Did you have clips? Did you carry clips on your belt or something of ammunition?
We had clips. I think there was 8 bullets in a clip.
How many clips did you have?
And you fire up, I don't remember how many clips I had, but you use one up, and then you slap another one in. And that's best I can tell you.
And then what happened when you run out?
Hopefully you got done before you run out.
And then you go back to...
I don't know what would happen if you run out first. You just have to quit and let the rest of them go.
So after Camp Pendleton, then where did you go?
We went to San Diego. We got ready to sail out, and we sailed directly to Korea. It took us 14 days to get to Japan. Then we spent 1 week in Japan getting rigged up and ready for Korea. Then when we left Japan, we was headed for the northern area to help the trapped people break through.
Up at the Chosin Reservoir.
Break through from the Chosin Reservoir. And fortunately, before we got to land, they broke through. So the ship turned and landed at Tucson, Korea. And then we went there and got boarded a train to a campsite, and then set up camp and waited for the escapees, or the ones that broke through, they had to go aboard ship and then come down there. So we set up there and got ready for them, and the whole company rebuilt.
Right. So you were the first replacement wave to come in to start rebuilding the 1st Marine Division.
Yes.
After the battle. And then what was it like? Can you remember anything about those guys coming back? Because you had this mix of new guys that had a year's training, that had just got off the boat, and then you had 4 days later all the guys that coming back that had been in Korea up to 6 months, that had been in some hellish fights and battles where they were surrounded by Chinese and had to fight their way out, and there was frozen land and snowing, and people had frostbite, and They barely got out of there, and 4 days after you got there, then their ship actually your ship went and got them, and after it dropped you off, and then brought them back. And
Yeah.
so they were mixed, so they were coming in with you guys. And can you remember any of that? It was like,
No.
I'm standing with this new guy, and then I got this guy that's just been in 6 months of war.
You know, I don't remember a thing about that. All I remember is getting there and setting up the camp, but I can't remember them coming in and getting acquainted with them.
Okay. So you just, but you remember that your ship was going up there, and then it didn't. You went down to Busan and put in there. Do you remember like your squad? How many guys in a squad?
There's 4 guys to a squad, a rifleman and a BAR man.
What's a BAR man?
Oh, the automatic Browning.
Oh. So your 30 caliber M1 was a semi-automatic, and then there was a guy that had an automatic machine gun.
Yeah.
And then 2 other guys.
Well, one guy, the barman and an assistant.
Okay.
And then a squad leader and then a rifleman.
And you were the rifleman.
I was a rifleman.
In your squad. Okay. So you were in, we've directed back, you were in the 1st Battalion of the 7th Marines in the 1st Marine Division.
Yes.
While you were there. Right. So we've got a book that kind of describes a lot of the battles that were going on while you were, from the time you got to Korea until in December of 1950 until about May or June of 1951. And so we're going to sort of talk through what the book describes in terms of what was going on with your battalion and your division, your regiment during that time. So do you remember anything about when you were first there? The book describes it as being more just doing patrols, but there was no enemy contact, and it was for the first month, sort of mid-December to late January 1951. It was training and practice and patrolling and that sort of thing. Do you remember any of that?
After we got the camp set up, we would go out on patrols and patrol this road or over this mountain. We never run into any enemy fire there at all.
So you were up a hill and down a hill and in pretty good shape by the time you'd been there for a month?
Very good shape.
After you were there about a month, you went to a place called Pohang, what they call the Pohang Guerrilla Hunt, with the 1st Marine Division occupying that area. It says you went up by truck convoy.
Yep. We got hauled, we boarded trucks and they moved us forward up to wherever you went.
Okay. And so what did you, if it took did it take like several days, you like stop and sleep on the side of the road, or how did that work?
I can't remember how long it took us. I think it more than a couple of days. I don't know how that worked.
But you were probably freezing to death at the time in the winter in Korea.
No, as long as it was in that truck, it wasn't all right.
Oh, you just stay in the truck. Huh?
Yeah, we stayed in the truck till we got where we was going.
Wow. All right. So you were. So it looks like you got there in mid to late January of 1951, and then it says the weather was generally cold and often damp with frequent snow flurries, but with little accumulation. The occasional high winds and overcast hindered flight operations and limited visibility. Is that You remember being cold and
I remember freezing. It was cold. I never been in such a cold place in my life. It was cold.
You got there in December, and then
And we had snow, cold weather gear on too.
so. And how did that work? Did you have to carry it all with you? I guess you're probably wearing it, but how did all the cold weather gear? It sounds like it's heavy.
Yeah, we had long johns.
And
We wore long johns and snow packs.
what are snowpacks?
Well, it was a leather top with a rubber bottom.
Boots?
Boots, yeah.
I see. So then when you were in this area, sort of January, February, then your division would go out on patrols. And one guy says we would board trucks in the morning following chow in full gear minus packs, roll out 5 or more miles to some spot, sweep the nearby hills, and then return to camp late in the afternoon, wash ourselves in the shower and have chow and write letters. Does that sound like what you were doing there? You remember any of that? As distinct from where you were at the first place?
I remember it'd be a month before you'd get a shower sometimes.
Yeah. Particularly once you got on the move.
Yeah.
But maybe while you were here, you would go out and come back every day.
Yeah.
And you had a camp with tents, and you would like sleep in a tent.
Yeah. They had tent set up.
So they must have carried the tents on trucks and stuff. Like you didn't carry your own.
No, they was carried in by the truck.
Yeah.
And we just assembled them.
Okay. And then did you sleep like in a tent? Was it like your squad? Were like 2 guys, or was it like your whole squad, or what?
Yeah, the whole platoon would sleep in one tent.
Oh, okay. So you'd have a cot?
Yeah.
And you'd have your pack? Your
Yeah.
gun,
Yes.
clean your rifle? Clean your rifle every day?
I can't remember. I suppose we did.
All right. So that was sort of from mid-January to mid-February. You were in Pohang, and then there was a phase called Operation Killer that went from mid-February to early March in an area of Korea. And so you would hike in just like long groups of long single file across the hills with all your gear.
Yeah, well, we'd kind of follow road lines.
Yeah.
What could be roads. There wasn't any roads till we made them.
Okay. So then this says it was rocky, barren, snow-covered ridges boxed in the narrow Somme Valley, whose lowlands were awash with runoff from melting snow and flooded by overflowing streams. The weather was terrible, a mixture of thawing snow, rain, mud, and slush. Does that sound familiar?
Sure does. It's a very cold, wet winter.
How did you deal with it when you were out on the move?
We just wore what we had on, our long woolies and our wool socks and winter clothes, and we just moved from day to day. When we moved, we'd dig foxholes and crawl in them. And sometimes if the weather was right, we wouldn't bother to dig. We'd just lay on the ground. And we'd always somebody on duty. So we'd double our sleeping bags, put one down and the other one over while one guy was standing on guard and the other one would sleep. And then the sleeper would get up and the other guy would crawl in the sleeping bags.
Okay. So you kind of had
until we got through the night.
We'd kind of had 2 sleeping bags that way.
Yeah.
And with one guy on watch. Wow.
The sleeping bag was always warm.
So then here's a little description of a battle on March 2nd at 8 o'clock in the morning when you were in this Operation killer. You were trying to take a hill, and it says both regiments jumped off at 8 a.m. in the 1st Marine Zone. Banning's 1st Battalion went after Hill 303 on the left using a flanking attack, while the 2nd Battalion, well supported by rockets, artillery, and tanks, passed through the debris of Hong Song, then took Hill 208 on the right with a frontal assault. Both attacks went smoothly, and the 1st Marines secured its immediate objectives by midday, assisted by airstrikes and 1,600 rounds of artillery. But didn't get to the line. Does that? I mean, do you have recollections of battles like that where you would go out to take a hill and you'd have different groups or battalions moving in different places, and the enemy would be on the hill, and there'd be artillery going over you and guys shooting back?
No, I don't have any recollections like that. We'd go out and we'd come to a certain hill and go up on this hill and then stretch out for the night. The next day, look for somebody and couldn't find anybody. And the next day we'd go, and once we run into a hillside that had the enemy on it, and we laid back there, and they called for airstrikes on it. And these planes would come zooming over our heads. And I thought they was coming in so low that I thought they was shooting at us, and I'd run over on the other side, the enemy side of the hill, our bound. and the plane fire still went over my head and hit the next hill ahead. I seen that. So I quick got back on my own side of the hill.
You could have been shot by your own team.
And that was that one I really remember. It was a South African squadron. Boy, they were so accurate that it scared me. I thought they was after us.
Okay.
But they was hit the hill just in front of us where the enemy was. I guess they got the enemy because I don't remember what happened after that.
Okay.
I don't remember moving on or crawling back or what. But that's the way we moved, as I remember it most of the time. We'd go out and patrol a place and set up overnight. Nothing hit us. We'd turn around and go back down. Next day we'd go up another hill. And I can't remember what we went back to.
So if you went out and stayed out overnight, you just like sleep in what you had on?
Yeah, but back behind us there was a kitchen set up, and we always could go back there to eat.
Okay.
Except when the day was out, we had sea rations we took with us and ate. But usually we'd return to the area that was set up. I don't remember having tents or anything. I just remember going back there and being able to eat hot food.
There was an operation called Operation Ripper that was later in March, and it says, here's a description. It says, back in the 7th Marines Zone, the 1st Battalion, which is what you were in, had to clear Hill 399 with hand grenades and bayonets on its way to Line Baker. And then later, the 7th Marines was placed in reserve. But, I mean, did you get into battles like that? Or do you just, not remember that part?
We ran into fire. One time was moving down the road in double columns. A column on each side of the road was moving into this city or town.
Yeah.
And just before we entered it, we walked right past a dead Marine laying there. And it just drove me out of my mind. I went ape. I couldn't wait to get up to shoot somebody. And then we got around and got hit town. And just on the other side of the town, there was a hillside where all the enemy was dug in. And they started shooting at us when we got over there, and we started shooting back. Then they called for what do they call them? Dynamiters. And they got their explosive and went up on that mound of dirt and was going to blow them enemy right out of their bunkers in there. And the guy was trying to show off. He stood up there, hey, look at me, I'm going to blow him up. Well, before he could throw his enemy, then one of them snuck out of their hole and killed him. And he just fell and blew up with him.
Wow.
There was no more of that. One time we was going out, we had a squad, a platoon sergeant, a gung-ho guy. We was hiking one time and was going out and we started receiving enemy fire, and he got right up in the middle of everything, stood up there and started shooting back at him. Everybody else was hunting for a rock to hide behind. And that guy never got hit.
Yeah, wow.
He never got hurt at all. I don't know. Lord must have been watching over him too. That's I remember that. And one time we was out on a patrol. We wasn't getting any enemy fire or anything. We was walking up the side of this mountain, and one of our guys, it was from back behind me, all of a sudden he took off over the side of that hill, down through the valley, and nobody could figure out what the matter with him. We ain't getting any enemy fire. And it turned out it just got the best of him. He lost his mind.
Oh, wow.
They sent him back to the hospital for a while. And first thing we know, he was back in the company. And I don't know why they sent him back up there when he had a mind like that.
Yeah.
He was perfectly normal, all good when he come back. But a guy would crack up over nothing like that. I didn't want him around.
You didn't want him in your team. So now it says, so like by April, spring arrived in mid-April. The days were generally warm and sunny with the temperature reaching into the mid-60s. Nights mostly clear and cool, but there was no longer the need for heavy winter clothing or Arctic sleeping bags. The 1st Marine Division spent 10 quiet days on the Kansas line before beginning Operation Dauntless on April 21st. So, do you remember getting warmer finally and kind of getting rid of some of the heavy clothes?
No, I don't. I remember that time we got shot up. When we was coming out, I was one of the 4 or 5 that managed to save all their gear. I had mine all packed up and ready to go, and when it was my turn to go, I just took my backpack and headed out. Well, I got over out of where it was safe, and I was marching along there, and everybody else was just walking along. He said, what are you carrying that backpack for? I said, because it's my gear, it's my livelihood. He says, well, you get some more when you get back. Why don't you throw it on one of them trucks and let them haul it for you? Because I need it and I want it and I want to know where it's at. And they kept after me and I finally said, okay, I'll throw it on the truck. And I threw it on the truck, and when we got replacements, I didn't get it back when we got over to where we was going to bivouac. And issued a summer sleeping bag, which is like one of the woolen blankets
Yeah.
sewed into the shape of a mummy. That's all it was. There wasn't no down in it or nothing, just that blanket. And it wasn't warm. Froze to death that night, next night.
Should have kept your pack.
Yeah, I wish I had it when we got there. Why did I listen to them and throw it on the truck? I even had souvenirs in it I wanted to save. We'd run into all kinds of arsenal that the enemy had run off and left. And I had bullets of about 20 different guns, fit 20 different guns. And I was carrying that around in my pack for souvenirs.
Oh, no.
And I lost it all in that pack.
Yeah, right. It could have blown
Which
up.
was fine because they wouldn't have ever let me out with it anyway.
So that's probably what they described back here, where it said at Hongchang. It said the 7th Marines found a treasure trove, 3 ammunition dumps that yielded more than 2,000 small arms and heavy machine guns and mortars and recoilless rifles.
You see, they write about all that, and I didn't see or hear anything about any of it when I was there.
So you said you found an ammunition.
It was just small amounts here and there.
Oh, I see.
There's one event I remember after we got put back in the weapons company and got assigned as a flamethrower. And that would have been in.
So this is a picture here. What's that picture?
This is me and Dale Gregory, my buddy, and my flamethrower buddy. He carried the flamethrower, and I was his assistant.
So tell me what experience you had with him.
We had been put back into the weapons company so that we wouldn't be seeing any more action before we left for home. But somebody, for some reason, they had decided to take this hill, and they called for flamethrowers. And we had to go up there and
So what was your job in the weapons company?
Assisting the flamethrower man.
Okay, so it was you and Dale Gregory?
Yeah, Dale Gregory was a flamethrower carrier, and I was his assistant. I don't know, made sure he had cover while he was doing his job.
Okay, so what happened?
So we had to move up there, and we was laying behind the lines and watching the firefight. And the hill in front of us, they was calling for fire on it. So the ships from out at sea was shooting 20 miles over onto that hillside, and the artillery behind us, land artillery, was shooting onto that hillside, and planes was coming in and hitting it. And when they got all done, it looked like that hillside was just plowed field. And them little gooks was still running. Every time they'd settle down, them gooks would run out and throw dirt out of their trench. So. And then when they start firing again, they'd run back in, had tunnels back inside. And one of them, there was one bunker there that they decided they was going to have to burn out. So they called on the flamethrowers to come up and burn them out of there. And so reluctantly, we went back to pick up our flamethrower where we'd laid it down. And Dale picked it up, and it was light as a feather. "What's the matter with this?" he said. "I know, we have filled it up." He got to looking at it, and there was a bullet hole in the bottom of it. And all the petroleum had flowed out, and we had no firepower, so we didn't have to go out and shoot that bunker. We thank the Lord for that.
That was like in the last month that you were there?
Yeah, that was the last month. We was in reserve, supposedly, so that they didn't have to do any firefighting.
Wow. So there was a point in time where you were in an attack where you were with a buddy that didn't make it back. And can you tell us sort of what happened? This was in September 1951, and you were out on a hillside. Your squad had deployed out. What was your position and what was going on?
Well, the whole company had, Baker Company had moved out as a company to cover this hillside, and we was marching up there in single file, and then we come to this bend in the road, and we went down across the creek, and this little hill there, on front of us was a great big monstrous hill, and we could see people running back and forth up there. We thought it was some of our troops, and we was waving to them as we went in and set up camp. There's no lie, we did.
Probably wasn't a good thing to do.
Then that night, they came in, and fortunately, from this hog back up to the top and down to the next hog back, they came up that far hard back from the one I was on. And them guys got shot up like crazy. They got clear up into the weapons company that was in the headquarters that was sitting right on top. And shot them all up too. So when we was laying down on this safe side, thank the Lord, and they told us to shoot across toward the other side. And we didn't even know where our guys was, though. We knew that was where they was coming up. So we was shooting over there in the middle of the night. Couldn't see nothing. So then come morning, before it got daylight, they retreated and got out of there. So come daylight, our company had to start getting everything together and getting ready to move down off of that mountain and retreat. So they took them all day to get everything organized, the wounded and the dead out, and get them out, get them time they moved out. And like a dummy, us down on our lower end didn't even watch to see how they got out. Because when it comes to my time to leave, I didn't know where I was going. I just started out going backwards. And then them other guys started shooting them phosphorus mortars over there, and I didn't want none of that on me, so I drove into the creek. I was wading down the creek, and a guy up on the bank says, "Hey, up here, come on up here." I said, who are you? He says, "We're the 5th Marines. We come to give you covering fire." Nobody told us he was doing that. So I went up there, then I hit the road right there and started marching out, and that's when I lost my backpack. But me and my buddy was standing down there. We was the last two on the line. It was about 8, 9 o'clock that night. And we argued about...
Were you like in a foxhole, or were you...
We was on top of the ground. We didn't have time. We didn't dig any foxholes that night. We didn't know we was going to get hit.
Okay.
Well, we were stationed about halfway down for the night. Then when they started moving out, we come clear down into the draw to help give them cover fire while they moved out.
Okay.
And when it come down to me and my buddy's time, I said, "Well, you go." "No, you go." "No, you got family. You go first." Well, we didn't have time to stand and argue, so I said, "Okay."
So that's it.
So I took off, and he stayed there for cover fire.
So go over that again. you said, what did you say to him?
I told him it was his time to go. You go first.
And then what did
And
he
then
say?
he says, no, you go first. I says, no. I don't know why, but you go first. He said, well, you got family, and I don't have any family. You go before I go. Okay. Vince was the last two. Why? I don't know why. We didn't both just go at the same time. But he didn't. He stayed, and I bugged out. And then I met the company up there behind the 5th Marines that was giving us cover fire. And he never came. The company took off and kept on hiking back. And he still never came, and we got back to where we was going to camp for the night. And he still wasn't there. They couldn't figure out what happened to him. I don't know why he didn't come out. But next morning, he still wasn't with us. Nobody said anything. Nobody done anything. I still didn't know what happened to him. Well, but when I got up on...
What was his name?
Kenneth Yablinsky. He's 1 year younger than me. And he didn't have any family. I mean, he had personal family. He had mother and father. But, and I didn't really know him that well because I don't remember him being with us until that day. I don't know who was.
The records say he died from artillery fire.
And I don't know. Them gooks usually didn't hit till midnight, early morning. Mm-hmm. And they watched us all day moving out. But he didn't come out. He did get shot from somebody in the dark there that night.
And have you thought about that over the years?
Yeah, I thought when I got home I should contact his people and let him know that I was the one that was with him when he finally got, that he was a brave kid because he saved my life for me. But I never did. I was young and busy with my own life, and then never got around to contacting his people. And then I forgot where they lived and where their names was and everything else.
If they see this video, what would you want to say to them? If anybody in his family sees this video, what would you want to say to them?
That it should have been, he should have came out with me, or I've been regretted all my life for not contacting him and letting him know that he had saved my life. I remember that one very plain. Didn't know what it was that, or all I knew they was shot us up good that night.
And then you always remembered his name. You always remembered his name. I remember you told it to me.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget his name. He was evidently, if he had went before me, it'd been me and left me left there getting killed.
Yeah. So here's another picture of you in Korea. Tell us what that is.
Yeah. That's when I was young and didn't know any better.
Well, the smoking didn't kill you.
It would have, though, if I'd have kept doing it.
Well, how long did you do it? How long did you do it?
Well, I was 21 there, and I quit at 79.
Okay. And how old are you now?
88. Almost 89.
Almost. But then you were in Korea November of 1951. You'd been there almost a year. And what happened? What happened then?
In 19, well, during, long about September, after we had that firefight, we moved back off the line, and the 5th Marines took over. And I got put on mess duty. And I served a month of mess duty. And then after that month of mess duty, then we got assigned to the weapons company. And the last month before I left, I was in the weapons company. And that's when they called on us for the flamethrowers. Fortunately, the Lord took care of it, and we didn't have to go do that. So then after that month was over, we started shipping out, and they put us on truck and took us over to the coast. And it was cold. And we stood there on the coast with oil barrels full of oil burning to keep warm, waiting for the landing craft to come in and pick us up and take us out to the ship. And it finally got to be our turn. And we rode that landing craft. It'd run up on the beach and drop its nose. We'd all crawl on there, and it'd raise up the nose and back out and take us out to the ship. And we'd climb up and rope ladders and get up on the ship. That was all a good memory. Climbing out of there.
Climbing out of Korea.
So we got aboard ship, and they took us back to Japan for a week of reorganization, and then put us on ship for home. And it took us 14 days to go over there. And when we was coming home, they wanted to make a name for themselves and get us home for Christmas. It only took them 10 days to bring us home.
Where did you land in the United States on your ship?
And we landed sailed under the Golden Gate Bridge into the San Francisco Bay and landed at, what was that?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
You called up and told me what name it was.
Oh, on your ship?
No, the landing place.
Oh, I don't know. Here, something. So then you got off the ship, and it's December.
Oh.
Late December.
Let's see.
1951.
Yeah, it was. We just had enough time to get off the ship and get our gear changed. And the very next day, they was put on an airplane for home.
And you flew from San Francisco to Portland?
And flew to Portland and had somebody pick me up there in Portland.
Okay. And you got home. When did you get home from Korea?
Night before Christmas Day. Christmas Eve, we got home.
So how long were you home? Got home for Christmas, and then what?
Oh, we was home for 10 days and then had to go back, report back to Camp Pendleton for discharge operations. It took them till, I think it was 2nd of March. We had to sit down there and go through drills and junk until they got all the paperwork done and sent us home.
Okay, so that was a couple months later, 3 months later, 2 or 3 months. So then, what's this picture of you and another guy?
Oh, when we finally got released from the military duty, I started, a buddy of mine drove me into LA from Camp Pendleton. And he drove me out to the north side of LA and then dropped me off, and I started hitchhiking home. And while I was hitchhiking, I met this other boy. I don't even remember his name. He was hitchhiking home too from the service. Only he was going on up to Washington, I think. So we started hitchhiking together, and we got a ride around Reading someplace. There was a man and a woman that was just out for a drive for the day. And they gave us a ride clear up to Medford, where my mother lived. And I stayed at night with my mother. No. I don't remember. Oh, this was after Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you probably did. Stay with your mom and then took a bus or something. All right, so let's stop for a minute.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you interact with any of the other Korean soldiers?
did what?
Did you interact with the other Korean soldiers when you were there? Like, who were you fighting alongside? There were Marines, but like, what other countries, like Korea? You mentioned South Africa.
Oh, well, there's several countries providing air support for the fighters, and usually it was our own Marine Corps, but that day, one day, was the South African Air Force giving us cover for.
Did you know there were Republic of Korea, South Korean Marines that were deployed along with the 1st Marine Division that were fighting along with you guys, as well as some other British and...
I knew there was South Korean armies that was fighting, but I didn't see any of them.
Okay. What about prisoners? Did you see prisoners?
Yeah. We was out on patrol one day, and somebody come running down the hill. We had one guy could speak Korean.
Yeah.
So they got him up there, and he started talking to him, and he was hiding up in the hills, and he was a North Korean soldier, and he wanted to turn himself in. He didn't want to get killed.
Wow.
So they took him in and took him back to the back lines, and that was the last I heard him, seen or heard of him.
So you told me a story once about a 75 millimeter, 7.5 millimeter recoilless rifle being shot in your direction. What was that story?
That was before we even got up on the main line. We was just out on a patrol one day, see if there was any enemy out there, and we wasn't getting any. And it was just our whole platoon. No, the one unit of the platoon was trailing along there. And all of a sudden, we started receiving that 7 millimeter fire right in the middle of us. They stayed back there, and they seen people moving out there in front, and they started shooting at them. Our leader got run on the phone real quick, and he says, "Who's that doing that shooting at us? We're 7th Marines out here checking out. Knock it off. We don't need your fire." So they got about 3 rounds in on us before he got them stopped. But they never hit anybody. They was coming near and blowing up, but never hit anybody, thankfully.
Well, that's kind of good news, bad news, because when they're shooting at the other side, you want them to actually hit somebody.
Yeah.
So, when you're shooting, so maybe it's not that great if they didn't hit anybody. And they didn't know who they were shooting at.
They thought they was shooting at the enemy, and they was after them.
Wow. All right. I want to pull up the pictures on my computer and go through those. How about this? This is the 3rd Battalion of the 7th Marines on a march with a tank. When some of the descriptions you've given of marching across Korea with your troops, is this what it looked like?
Yeah, it could have been us just as well as somebody else on a trip like that. We did that a lot.
Can you describe a little bit of what you remember when it was when you were marching across Korea like that?
Well, that one I told you about was approaching this one town, and I met that dead soldier, and it made me so angry I wanted to go shoot them all up. But then we got around the corner and they started shooting at us, and I changed my mind in a hurry. I decided I didn't want to go shoot them all up. I found something to hide behind.
So you were marching your whole regiment along the road like that with mechanized tanks and
Yeah, we was.
Yeah.
We did that. I remember being at that camp, but I don't remember that particular scene.
Do you remember Christmas?
Oh yeah, I remember Christmas there.
What do you remember about that?
I got a lot of Christmas presents from home.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you were there like 2 weeks and you got some sausage and some biscuits and some hot warm socks.
I did, and Betty sent me some kind of candy I like. It was really good. But some we got some that some cookies or something that was spoiled. Time we got them to us.
Okay. Well, it must have felt pretty good to get Christmas gifts from home on Christmas in Korea.
Oh, it did. That felt great. People at home was thinking about us. That's another flamethrower shot.
Yeah, another flamethrower shot from March.
And that's what we're supposed to do, shoot that bunker and shoot that into the bunker like that, and that'd suck all the oxygen right out of there, and it'd suffocate.
Wow. And then, so the equipment on his back there, is that what you guys had laid down and then it had a hole in it?
Yep. Somehow, miraculously, it had a hole, shot a hole shot in it. I don't know how. Only the Lord could have done it.
Here's a naked Marine bathing in a Korean stream in 1951. Maybe that's you.
It had to met him in August or June.
Did you ever take a bath in the stream?
No way. That water was cold. I remember trips like that. Loading up in trucks and moving. Move from down there at Masan up to wherever we went.
Okay. So that looks like it could have been one of your troops. And there's an amphibious vehicle there.
Yeah, any one of them could have been us.
When you're talking about being in the truck and traveling to your next spot, and you just stay in the truck and sleep overnight with a gang like that?
Yeah, we didn't do much sleeping, but we moved like that.
Okay.
One trip we was on, one boy, he was a basketball player from down the L.A. area, and we was traveling in a trip like that, and the truck we was on that day had canvas over it. We was sitting in there, and he was kind of slumped over, sleeping on had his shoulder laying on the top of his spare rifle, and it fired and shot a hole right through his shoulder and ruined him as a basketball player.
Wow.
That was really heartbreaking.
And then, did he get pulled out?
Oh yeah, he got sent home.
Here's a picture of the boat you came home on crossing under the Golden Gate Bridge. Do you remember, were you on a place in the boat where you could see it?
It was in the dark when we sailed into San Francisco Bay.
You were down in the middle, in the hold of the boat.
Yeah, it was nighttime.
Oh, it was nighttime.
Yeah, it was nighttime, middle of the night when we drove in there.
And then, so Did you even know that you were arriving? Or were you sleeping?
Yeah, we knew we was going to be going under the Golden Gate Bridge.
Well, I mean, when it was happening, were you sleeping or were you awake?
We was awake. We knew we was entering. There wasn't nobody sleeping on the boat at that time.
Were you guys happy to be back?
Yeah.